Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Phoenix Act and welcome. So, the other day there was a little game, a trailer came out for a game that caught my eye. I first was made aware of it by through a site called Rice Digital. It's a game called Tormented Souls, being published by P-Cube and developed by Dual Effect and Abstract Digital Works. First off, like with the Riser 2, we're going to take a look at the trailer and then I'll see what I have to say about it after that. Okay, yeah, that trailer it was only a short trailer, but it looks really good. Definitely, the promotional stuff for this says it's inspired by the likes of Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and definitely more on the Silent Hill side, just from the general atmosphere, like the old rusty looking backgrounds and stuff, and just the grain effect they had over the top, and I'm wondering how that's going to affect things. Obviously we saw as well they had this bit with the pocket watch, seeing like solving puzzles like in the classic Resident Evil Silent Hill style is going to be a thing. I did like the sort of dynamic fixed camera, where the camera was like in a fixed position so you can't control it, but it does follow the main character and move around the room as she moves around, which will help alleviate the situations you had in the classic Resident Evils back in the day, where where sometimes you couldn't see what was 2 feet in front of your face just because of the way the camera was set up. So it looks good. And looking at their official site, let's see what they have to say about that there. Tormented Souls sets out to draw inspiration from classic survival horror, like we said, from Resident Evil and Silent Hill to Alone in the Dark. Tormented Souls is a modern take on the fixed perspective adventure. I already commented on the fixed perspective camera, offering an improved control scheme and more dynamic camera. Improved control scheme, so presumably not the tank controls, because that's what everyone sort of goes on about. I've never particularly been bothered by tank controls, but if it gets more people to play the game, then I'm all for changing them up, whilst retaining everything that made those games so beloved by fans. So a bit about the story here. Something evil lurks at Winter Lake. While investigating the disappearance of twin girls at Winter Lake, something terrible happens to Caroline Walker, waking in the dead of night, naked in a bathtub, and hooked up to some decrepit medical equipment. They took her kidneys. That's how it goes. Caroline must fight for her life as she explores the halls of an abandoned mansion turned hospital. So, like, literally mixing Resident Evil with Silent Hill there, because the hospital was always one of the most famous, iconic locations from the Silent Hill games, and obviously mansion calls back to obviously Resident Evil, the first Resident Evil. So I'm wondering, it sounds like it could be unique if it's a mansion that's probably been renovated to turn it into a hospital, but from the look from the trailer and all the old equipment there, it looks like it's a very old-fashioned style hospital. So yeah, that looks it creates a pretty cool aesthetic. I'm just wondering how they're gonna incorporate that into the story. Like, was this mansion turned into a hospital like 50 years ago or something like that? Keep your wits about you. You'll need much more than a steady aim and sharp reflexes to make it out alive. Search the environment for anything you can use to your advantage. Cleverly combine items to solve puzzles and use every resource available to explore the secrets of the mansion and its grounds. So yeah, they got a picture here as well of a sort of a padlock, like examining a padlock in the sort of zoomed in view from when you like pick an item in your inventory in the old Silent Hill and Resident Evil games. So again, they're drawing attention to the fact that this is going to have some of those probably slightly lateral thinking puzzles where you have to think a bit outside the box, which I like, and I think a lot of other people do as well. It just depends how much lateral thinking is required on these puzzles. You don't want something that's complete moon logic where you go, how was I supposed to guess that? But if they're paying careful attention to the old Resident Evil style games, I think they should avoid the pitfalls that a lot of sort of modern, particularly indie games fall into, I feel. And of course, use the environment to your advantage. Okay, another dimension. So again, possibly more Silent Hill stuff. Is this like crossing over with sort of the Silent Hill style parallel worlds sort of thing, where you've got the real world and then you've got the hell dimension or whatever. So yeah, we'll see how it incorporates that. I've got a picture here of what looks like an enemy of some kind. Very not quite Silent Hill, but like again, it looks a little bit. The enemy looks a little bit Silent Hill mixed with Resident Evil. So again, it's obvious to see where they're drawing their inspiration from. If they didn't, they already said it, but from the visuals and stuff, you can still sort of tell that they're very heavily inspired by those types of games. Nothing is quite as it seems in Winter Lake. Mirrors provide a path to an alternate reality and another place in time. Okay, so answering my question, yes, they will have the sort of parallel worlds thing going on. It's going to be interesting then to see, knowing that, whether crossing over is optional since it's mirrors, that we'll be deliberately choosing to cross over ourselves since it's mirrors an item rather than just it randomly happening from you walking down a corridor. By crossing these shimmering gateways, Caroline can manipulate the very fabric of reality in surprising ways, turning the situation to her advantage. Okay, so there's something unusual. I can't think of very many survival horror games that gave the player access to some sort of supernatural ability. It's going to be interesting to see whether they can keep the horror up if we, the player, can actually manipulate reality. Giving the player that kind of power, how are you going to maintain the sort of horror aspect of it, which is something I'm sure they've thought about. You are not alone in the dark. The mansion may seem abandoned, but as Caroline investigates its secrets, dark forces and unspeakable horrors will do everything in their power to stop her getting to the truth. Be sure to be alert at all times and use anything you can find to fight off the encroaching terrors of Winter Lake. Yeah, that's another one. So they've confirmed, obviously, here that there'll be some level of combat, which I am happy about, because as long as you can't just go around beating every enemy to death. But I am happy about this because I feel like, again, a lot of modern horror games, particularly indie ones, completely abandoned combat and made it so the only thing you can do is just run away all the time, which for me becomes frustrating after a little while. I don't want to be able to actually beat the enemies in outright combat necessarily, because this is a horror game after all, but some way to just struggle back against enemies and just to claw my way towards survival would be nice. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether the combat is in the traditional Silent Hill, Resident Evil style as well. But yeah, this is, being a big fan of the Silent Hill and Resident Evil games from back in the day, this is of particular interest to me. Like I said, I was first turned on to this by a tweet from a website called Rice Digital. Again, the environments, particularly looking at one of the screenshots they've got on their website, on P-Cube's website, they look pretty good. They definitely call back to both the old Silent Hill and Resident Evil games, but sort of updated and with obviously more modern technology behind it to give it a more sort of movie-like atmospheric feel, which is helped by the fixed camera. That's generally what the fixed camera was. I think one of the things fixed camera works at is to help make things seem more cinematic and movie-like, which can be a good or a bad thing depending on how it's implemented. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that looks like everything for now. Oh yeah, it's coming out in 2021 on Switch, PS4, Xbox One and Steam. No mention of PS5 or Xbox Series X. So it's possible this game's been in development for a while, or maybe the developers just don't have access to the PS5, Xbox Series X dev kits or stuff yet. So, or maybe they just want to focus on current what is at the moment current gen. Maybe they don't feel like they can do that cross-gen thing, or they don't want to compromise the game by doing trying to make it cross-gen. But we'll see. It's looking good so far, just from what little I've seen of it. And again, I'm repeating this again and again, but I am excited to see something in the in the mould of the old Resident Evils and Silent Hill games. Hopefully it comes out well, better than some imitators have in like the last decade or so. But other than that, yeah, that's all I've got to say for now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be keeping an eye on this one and probably bringing it up again in the future. But that's it for now. I've been Phoenix Act, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, please take care of yourselves.